Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kersner.
Hello and welcome to episode 86 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you for joining me in this amazing present moment. The title and topic of today's podcast is Everything is a Choice in the Present Moment. I decided that I wanted to speak on choice because it's a wonderful way to shift your perceptions about the things that are happening for you, not to you, in your life and in this very present moment. If we understood the power of perception, and I have spoken and podcasted about that before, we can see something like choice and how it plays into our experiences. Now, you might retort and say, well, some of the things I do are not a choice. Some of the things that I do are things that I have to do. And I wouldn't challenge you because there are responsibilities in life that we have, but our choice is to see how we're doing it. Our choice is to see how we're perceiving it, how we feel about it, how we talk about it. Now, this is easier said than done because there are things that have to be done in life that feel extremely laborious, that are a challenge for us to do, whether that's waking up early and going to a job that you don't necessarily like, whether that's taking care of someone else out of obligation. It doesn't really matter what the activity is. It's the way that you're doing it. It's the way that you feel about it. Because even if you're being forced to do something, you still have the choice on how you perceive it in the moment. That's up to you because everyone has free will. And the free will might not be to say that you can do everything you want whenever you want to do it. The free will is the will that you have in your perceptions of what's happening for you, with you, in your present moments, in your present seconds. If we can shift the way that you're operating by your perceptions, we can allow for more presence, which allows for more peace and prosperity. It makes your reality easier. It doesn't necessarily make it easy. So when I have to do things, when I'm required to do certain things that I don't necessarily enjoy or want to do, I still have the choice of shifting my words, my descriptors, my feelings about that activity so that I can stay into a flow state and get through it a lot easier so I don't get stuck, so I don't lose the momentum as I'm going throughout my day or whatever the experience is. Choice is really amazing when you think about it because there's all these different ways to enable the choice so that you feel empowered, not disempowered. And feeling disempowered is a very challenging experience because it will take you right out of the present moment and it allows your ego to create a lot of stories about why you've been disempowered. The ego always likes to create stories about lack, about problems, about people, about issues, things that you don't feel good about, things that you're worried about, things that have happened. And you could take some time to look at your past and all the times that you had to do things and how hard they were. And if you could be objective enough, you can see that if you shifted your perception about choice, not that you had a choice to do those things, but the way you did those things, the way you felt about those things, whatever it is. And I'm not here to challenge the severity or the difficulty of the experiences that you've had. The point of this podcast is to help you shift the way you're doing things so you understand that even though you don't necessarily have a choice of the responsibilities that you have to take care of, your choice is how you do it. Your choice is how you see it. Your choice is how you talk about it. Your choice is to listen to your ego or not listen to your ego. Your choice is to use your presence tools or not. These are all your choices. And from the moment we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, we are presented with a variety of choices. And with those choices allows for so many different possibilities. And we have to really be able to delineate between how we're seeing these choices and what our ego wants us to see, how our ego wants us to perceive the choices and the challenges that exist right in front of us. It's really powerful if you zoom out enough to see how you are interacting with the person, place, or thing that you feel obligated or you are obligated to do or to take care of or to interact with. It's not that it's going to absolve you of the responsibility that needs to happen. What it's going to do is allow you to be a little bit more neutral in the experience of what it is, so that you can have a beginning, middle, and end, which is the ultimate definition of staying in a flow state. Your ego always wants to interrupt the flow state and get you stuck somewhere in that journey, in that experience itself. Your ego, that loud voice in your head, wants you to believe that you don't have a choice and how hard that is for you. And if you believe that, you will suffer. And if you choose to believe that, there's a level of self-inflicted suffering, because you're actually choosing to believe something that's creating suffering for you. When we use our presence tools, we work to gain clarity. Once we have clarity, we can see what things are for what they are, not for the way that we think they should be or might be or want them to be. And that by itself is a choice. This topic of choice is powerful, and I strongly suggest that you use choice as a presence tool to remind yourself that in any given present moment or present second, that your choice is to see things differently. Your choice is to not have so much resistance for something that has to be done. We've talked about acceptance, and acceptance, when overlaid with choice, will make your experience smoother. It will allow you to get through it a little bit easier. And in the end, that's what this is all about. That's why we strive to create a state of presence, maintain presence. We use our presence tools so that we can have an easier reality, so that our days go smoother, so that we're present in the moment, seeing things with clarity and truth, ultimately. So my question to you is, are you using choice in a way that feels good, even though you feel like you have to do something that you don't necessarily want to do? It's a great question. And really, the point of this podcast is to remind you, ultimately, that you do have a choice, even though you are required to do whatever it is that you need to do today or tomorrow or the next day or even right now. Your choice is your perception. Your choice is to quiet the mind, to quiet the ego. Your choice is to still yourself. Your choice is to not use emotional descriptors like this is hard, this is tough. Your choice is not to listen to the ego stories about why do I have to do this? I'm being forced to do this. I don't want to do this. Instead, do what needs to be done. Accept it for what it is. That is the choice. That's how you can shift out of a state of resistance into a state of acceptance and be reminded that, yes, even though there's an obligation here, that I have a choice on how I honor the obligation, how I show up, how I interact, how I talk, how I think. These are all choices. And I know growing up, it's very difficult when you have, or it seems like, you have very little choice in what you get to do. But again, your choice is the perception of what you have to do. And no one really teaches us that, or very few people are taught that even though you have to do this, the way that you see it, the way you go through it, the way you talk about it, describe it, feel about it, that ultimately is your choice. And if you can maintain this state of perception, you can empower yourself and have more influence over the way that you're experiencing the situation at hand. And that is all about presence. And choice is a big part in being present, because you have to choose presence over everything else, because your mind is going to play tricks on you. Your ego is going to confuse you. Your ego is going to make you think things that aren't true, that aren't so. Your ego is going to make you worry about things that will never happen. And in that time when those things are happening, it is your choice to use presence tools. It is your choice to be the observer more than anything, to watch the ego and the loud voice in your head. It is your choice to watch others without judgment, to see them, to see things for what they are, and then to navigate and make decisions based on that. It is your choice to pivot. If something doesn't work the way you intended it to, you can choose to pivot. And if that doesn't work, you can choose to pivot. That's your choice. If you navigate the world with an expectation, you won't believe or see that you do have a choice. And the ego thrives with expectation, because very rarely does reality meet up to the expectations that we have for it. And that just creates a tremendous amount of suffering, which is also a choice. I want to share these kinds of topics with you so that you are empowered, no matter what is happening for you in this present moment or what has taken place up to this present moment. Your choice is your perception of the things that have happened. Your choice is your perception of the things that are happening. And your choice ultimately is the way that you're seeing or potentially seeing things that are going to happen. But remember, the past and the future are mere illusions. If you choose to do your ego work, if you choose to use your presence tools, you can keep grounding yourself back into the present moment where everything and anything is possible if you believe that it is so. So my suggestion is to sit with this concept of choice, to remind yourself over and over and over again that you do have a choice, even though you have to do whatever it is that you have to do. Your choice is how you do it. I hope that you found this podcast helpful, and I wish you all nothing but peace.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.